Hello, friends, and welcome to Mousterpiece Melodies, a podcast that's listening to the songs of Disney movies, past and present. I'm Josh Spiegel.
And I'm Scott Renshaw. Thanks for joining us on this comprehensive and encyclopedic compendium of all things Disney music. Now playing from 2021, Encanto.
And before we get into our discussion, thank you for listening. No matter how you're checking us out, we hope you like what you're hearing. If you are, we'd appreciate it if you could rate and review Mousterpiece Melodies on iTunes, Spotify, or whatever app you're using to listen.
That's right. Let everyone know how much you love the show and tell your friends to do the same. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Scott Renshaw, and you can read my film criticism at cityweekly.net.
And you can follow me on Blue Sky at Mousterpiece, where I have finally brought the brackets back. If you're listening to this, you should be making sure to follow me on Blue Sky, where you can vote in the new 64 seed, like all 64 films from the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon, including Encanto. Make sure you're voting. I forget off the top of my head if by the time you're hearing this if we've had a vote with Encanto or not, but you should check it out anyway. And, of course, you can also email me at masterpiececinema@gmail.com with any comments, questions, or opinions you'd like to share. All right, now that all the housekeeping is out of the way, let's start talking about the songs of Encanto. And to do that, we are thrilled to bring back into the show a very special guest. That's right, we have our first return guest today. He is the chief film critic for the Boston Globe. You heard him in our previous season where he talked with us about the songs of Mufasa, the Lion King, speaking of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Odie Henderson, welcome back to Mousterpiece Melodies. Thanks for being here again.
Thanks for having me on again.
We are delighted to have you here to talk about Encanto, the 2021 film from Walt Disney Animation Studios, directed by Byron Howard and Jared Bush, featuring, as mentioned, songs written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Now, this is an interesting one because, as was the case with the 2023 film Wish, which Scott and I soldiered through earlier actually, it's funny. I was about to say earlier this year, but you know what? Just like people who forget to write the new year on their checks, I forgot that it's 2026. We talked about that last year. Scott, that was with Louis Heitzman, I think. Was he our guest for our Wish episode?
Oh, gosh, if I could remember who was on which episode, then I'd have a much better memory than I've ever need.
I think it was Louis, but we'll see. Maybe I will find out later that I'm wrong. But I believe it was. My point being, this is one of those rare cases where we're talking about the songs of the film that Scott and I never discussed on the old show. As you may or may not recall, the old show, Mousterpiece Cinema, that began with Cars 2 in 2011. It ended with The Rise of Skywalker in 2019, as I like to say, start strong, end strong. So we didn't get a chance to talk about Encanto, which is it is a fascinating movie to discuss. This is a film set in Colombia sometime in the 20th century, primarily, I guess we'd say, aroundish 1930 or so. I'm trying to, in my head, figure out how old the adults who aren't the abuela in the family are supposed to be. But at any rate, primarily set in their casita, this very large and very special house that the family Madrigal lives in, because this house is magical. It gives most, but not all of its recipients, special gifts, as they're called in the film. You and I might call them superpowers, essentially, like super strength or super hearing, or the ability to shapeshift. And the movie primarily is about the one member of the Madrigal family, Mirabel, who does not have a gift of her own, and about how she embarks on an adventure to potentially save the magic that keeps the casita alive. While doing so, she encounters members of the family from their past, including somebody who we just don't talk about. I will let you all guess who. Before we get into kind of these songs specifically, the track-by-track discussion, I'm curious for the two of you, Odie and then Scott, and I'll go, what was your initial, I'm guessing we all saw this movie at press screenings back in November of 2021. What was your initial reaction to Encanto overall?
I really liked it. I thought it was very well done. It's very well animated. I was surprised to find out that Stephanie Beatrice was the voice of Mirabel, because I only knew her from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which she has this harsh, Brooklyn accent. not knowing that she was a big voiceover actor before and after she was in that. So it was a little bit of a surprise to hear her. The music I thought was very well done by Lin-Manuel Miranda, although of course, I'm a fan, even though some of his songs are bad. I was confused a little bit though, and even when I watched it again before we got on this podcast, confused about some of the ages of some of these people and when this actually took place. And I started thinking, well, it's Colombia, so, and they make an allusion to some kind of coup or some kind of overthrow. So I started going back into history, going down this rabbit hole to try to find out when this movie was made. And chances are the writers of it were just like, oh, well, we're just going to throw it in because it's dramatic and it will give us the big song, that we'll talk about later. So I wasn't really sure, but overall, I think I like Coco a little bit better than this. But as far as these types of movies go, I think I'm trying to remember what the movie was before this. The Disney movie before this. What it was.
Would have been Raya and the Last Dragon was the one before it.
Yeah, which I wasn't crazy about. So I knew it was one that I wasn't crazy about, and this is kind of, in my opinion, a return to form.
Yeah, so as Josh noted before we got on the air, I actually, name dropped him, even though we were between podcasts at the time, because when this movie came out, he was noting my kingdom for an actual villain in an animated movie or something along those lines. And so, and I noted that that this is sort of had become a trope of the 21st century animated film, is that the conflict did not result from some external villain. It was all familial conflict, or these sort of things like obviously Frozen, and there are plenty of examples, in addition to this, using what I've always referred to as the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer plot, which is the oddball in the family who is somehow an outcast, and yet whatever their odd thing is turns out to be the thing that saves everyone. So it was something that, even though I liked lots of pieces of it, I liked the songs, I liked the animation, I liked a lot of the things that it was doing in terms of, addressing this sort of psychology of children of first generation immigrants, and how they kind of have this pressure on them to earn what their family members had given them by making this, these difficult journeys. There was something about it that felt a little samey, and I recognize that desire to, can we get a different kind of conflict going on?
But then you got Wish, and you should be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
Maybe a villain.
Exactly.
I talked a lot about that in our Wish episode, Odie, because again, this, it's funny, I would not have had any recollection of saying those specific words on X, the everything app. Please, Scott, right. But it's definitely something I had felt for a long time, and Encanto is certainly not the first Disney film or Pixar film. You mentioned Coco, which does have a villain, although that kind of falls more into the third act twist version of which movies like Wreck-It Ralph do. And it's funny, I don't think I had rewatched this movie in full since it arrived on streaming at the end of 2021. So as I alluded a moments ago, I did see this at a press screening I brought my son with me, my older son, who was 7 when this movie came out. He was a little boy who wants to be a big boy at the time, and I thought, it's a Disney movie, it's a Disney animated film. When I was 7, I would have loved to have seen one of these movies early, and the thing with kids is, as I'm sure Scott knows from his own children who are older than mine, but that you can kind of tell when a kid is either really into a movie or really not into a movie. An example, I can give a positive example from my own life in between our last episode, which Scott and I talked with Alan Sepinwall about The Princess and the Frog. My younger son wanted to watch The Princess and the Frog. He randomly asked to watch it, and within about 10 minutes he was asking me questions about what was happening, which clearly made it obvious, oh, you're interested in this, which was a delightful surprise. He wanted to watch it again the next day, which made me so very happy. When I brought my older son to see Encanto, you can tell when a kid is getting a little restless. And he was getting pretty restless pretty early. Not immediately early. I'll say it was funny. We were also, before we started recording, Scott and I were talking about Chris Evans for non-animation reasons. We were talking about
Right.
his appearance in a teaser for a movie that I'm sure is definitely going to be creatively satisfying for everyone involved. I'm sure all of you listening can guess what I'm referring to. But I was thinking also about another movie that I brought my son to see, and that was Lightyear. A movie we're never going to talk about in detail on the show, but I'll tell you, he desperately wanted to watch that movie, and 30 minutes in, he whispered to me, "Can we go now?" And I said, "Oh, we're going to watch the whole thing," because I had to write about it, and I was like, "We're going to watch the whole thing." In Encanto, he wasn't quite as impatient, but I could tell he wasn't really into it, and I walked into this movie in 2021 really excited. I am a big fan of Moana. By that point, I'd heard the Hamilton original Broadway cast recording 1,000 times. I also, like Odie, I knew Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's funny, I was just looking. I'd forgotten that she was in kind of like ground zero for a lot of young actors. She was in Short Term 12. That was her debut movie.
Yes.
Brie Larson and Lakeith Stanfield and all these other folks. The point being, I knew her primarily as Rosa Diaz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I wanted to love this movie. And I went back and read my own review. I think I was a little generous. I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I remember thinking I was more mixed on it then. I think it is a beautifully animated film. It moves very quickly. It's trying to do a lot. I actually had a similar reaction watching the next movie that Jared Bush made, which is Zootopia 2, which is, it's a very busy movie. I think it's energetic, which is great, but it's also like literally in the middle of the first song, which we'll of course get to here in a few seconds, Mirabelle says to a kid, "And that's why coffee is for grown-ups." And I thought, this song needs to recall that coffee is it's a very hyper-caffeinated song. It's a hyper-caffeinated movie, I think. And it also, I'm going to be like, parts of this movie drove me crazy at the time, and they drive me crazy now. And I don't even mean the lack of a villain as much as the way everybody in the family is kind of a dick to Mirabelle.
Yes.
Drove me crazy. I want to be very clear. I understand that that's believable. The idea that there are black sheep in a family, very believable. That some members of the family could be real jerks to the other ones, again, extremely plausible. I'm not taking issue with that as much as, is it dramatically satisfying to watch those characters act like jerks? And I do think some of that comes into play with the songs, something Scott mentioned in his review, which I actually reread before this podcast, was that the sisters that Mirabelle has, that her sisters each get a song of their own, each of which is meant to accomplish the goal of making clear they aren't having as blessed lives as it might look like on the surface.
Right. But
the placement of those songs, I think, causes, for me at least, an issue of, well, I like you more now, but why did it take me an hour to get to know you better? Which I just think there are very interesting structural choices the movie makes, which I guess is fitting since it's about a big house. So again, there are parts of this movie I like, kind of to what Scott was saying. There are pieces of it that work. There are aspects I think work, but as a whole, I'm not quite as convinced. Last time, for example, when we talked about The Princess and the Frog, I said, wasn't it funny that I was the one saying, why do we have to be negative at all? Well, the old Josh is back today, so don't worry about this. So there are, I want to make sure I get the list of, there are, I think, 8 or 9 different original songs here, and that includes 2 Spanish language songs, one of which definitely has a very important role in the story of this movie. We'll get there soon. And actually, I should be clear. So there are 8 original songs. The 9th is the English language version of one of those Spanish language songs. I do want to be clear there. But the first one, since we can go track by track, the movie opens with a little bit of a build. It's like the people making this film almost went into it being like, it's a new Lin-Manuel Miranda thing. We're going to build up that first song as the family is getting ready for this big event. There are kids all around town who are asking questions of Mirabelle about all the different gifts everyone has, and she launches into the opening song, The Family Madrigal. I will briefly say it's a very catchy tune, but again, hyper energetic. What do the two of you think of The Family
Well, it's of all of Miranda's Disney slash movie songs that he's done, or scores, or song scores. I mean, this is his most Broadway.
Matter?
This is the one that is basically, if they turned Encanto into a musical on Broadway, it makes sense how the songs are placed and how they're written. And so this one is kind of like his Gilligan's Island song. They're going to introduce everybody in the movie, and there are a lot of people. And it's funny because when I was watching it again, I got lost trying to put everybody together. I've seen this movie several times, but it's funny how it's a hyper caffeinated song, like you said, and I think it has to be. Otherwise, it would take 20 minutes to go through everybody that's in this damn family. So, I mean, I think it's very catchy. It brings you into the whole kind of Colombian vibe of the music that you will hear in Colombia, these different types of Spanish music that are known to Colombians who would hear the song. So it brings you into kind of the environment that this is Colombia, and you're going to hear songs that are kind of built on the music that comes from that country. So I greatly appreciate that he did that. And it's funny because the song seems to know, yeah, I'm hyper. That's why the whole thing about coffee and the kids running around and her having to almost basically rehash the song, because basically she goes through who everybody is twice, right? The second time she does a little bit faster, and there's other things going on, and you're seeing people. It's kind of exhausting, but I think for today's kid, this is what they had to do to get your attention. So I think it's the overpaced. I remember when Sesame Street went to HBO, I made jokes about it turning into The Sopranos. But when I decided, they sent me a screener of the HBO Sesame Street. And I decided, I'm going to watch it. I love Sesame Street. I'm going to watch it. And I swear I thought I was going to have a seizure. Because it was edited so quickly and so much different than, me watching Sesame Street in the 70s as a kid. It was so hyper and over the top that I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm too old to, even like catch up with this. I think this song has that. But I still found it, catchy, and it's entertaining how it attempts to introduce everybody. And then it ends with them saying, she has no power. Because the whole point of the song is the kids keep asking, and it builds to that moment where she's deflecting constantly. And then, the grandmother just says, oh, she ain't got no powers. Whatever. So it builds to that kind of almost anticlimactic punchline.
Mm. I have this image in my head of, this is a kind of song, as, Odie, as you're saying, that this is a sort of standard place setter song for musicals, for the animated musicals and for stage musicals. It's the, how efficiently can we lay the groundwork for the story that's about to unfold in front of you? And I just imagine, Lin-Manuel Miranda saying, okay, so we need to do one of these songs, got to introduce all the characters. Okay, how many characters are there? And someone says to him, 15.
Yeah.
And this is, that was the job given to him. He did the job that was necessary, but the problem is the 15 characters. He's doing the best he can with what he's got and having to do it really quickly because there's so many damn characters that he has to explain who they are and what their abilities are and what relation they are and who's the second cousin once removed and, all of these things that is part of that busyness that I think, Josh, you were referring to, is there's not just a lot of stuff, there's a lot of characters, and we have to remember, oh, wait a minute, oh, that's the one who turns into other people, oh, that's the one who can hear everything, and that's, oh, okay, that's what her, there's just a lot. And this is a song that is a lot, and I can't blame Lin-Manuel Miranda. I like the tune. I think that what I get back to for all these is that, with the unfortunate exception of Mufasa, he writes a damn catchy tune. There are every one of these things is just sticky. And that's great. It's just that the song itself has to be busy because that's the job that was given to him, and does the best he can with the job that was given to him.
Every song in this movie is sticky?
No.
Okay.
But most of them are. But most of them are.
Yes, and again, I would definitely say Family Madrigal has I am humming it kind of internally now. It is a very catchy tune. It's a very busy movie. And again, when I'm telling you, I just watched Zootopia 2 for the first time last last week, that's an even busier movie in a lot of ways. And hey, what do I know? That movie's made $1.5 billion worldwide. So clearly it's doing very well. My point though, like this one, it has a lot that has to be accomplished, that opening song, especially since I should note, it comes after the initial, it's not even really a prologue. It's not long enough to be a prologue, but when we see Mirabelle when she is younger and when she is meant to be receiving her gift, even though we learn very soon after she never received one, and her abuela, voiced by, at least when she is not singing, voiced by Maria Cecilia Botero, Olga Merediz, who does perform partially in this song, she provides abuela's singing voice. My assumption as to why Olga Merediz, who I should note, an actress who you out there listening, you have absolutely seen her in something before. She got a Tony nomination for, speaking of Lin-Manuel Miranda, In the Heights.
In the Heights.
I believe she, like Stephanie Beatriz, is in the film version, from 2021. I assume the reason why she did not voice the character as well is that she is Cuban. She's not Colombian herself. I don't know that that's automatically the case, but that's what I assume. My point being, there's a lot going on. And with Abuela, she's explaining very broadly what led to the creation of the casita. Part of it is that her husband, Mirabelle's abuelo, died in some vaguely defined conflict that Wikipedia helpfully points out to me is the 1,000 Years, I believe it's the 1,000 Years War, which was the 1,000 Days War. I'm sorry. The 1,000 Days War, which was, it's a little shorter, yes. It was a civil war fought in Colombia at the turn of the 20th century. And I think where I partially have issues with the movie as a whole, and it does come into play with a climactic song, it's really safe. I think it's safe to assume that many, at least Western audiences or American audiences, if you like, probably don't know about that. Certainly kids probably don't know about that. And I think it is, at the very least, a choice to use that as the framework for this story.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to say whether that's the appropriate choice or not, because I just got the name of the war wrong. I'm obviously not an expert on the subject. But it's an interesting choice, especially since, as depicted in the movie, it is extremely, extremely vague. The closest you could have to a true antagonist would be whoever killed Mirabelle's abuelo.
Right.
That seems like a pretty bad person right there. But there's not really any detail provided beyond that very vague sense. Anyway, so after this first song, again, there is this very big event that is happening. There's basically two major family events. First, the youngest son of the family, Antonio. It is time for him to see what his gift is going to be. There is a big celebration that's going to be happening. The other event is a hopeful marriage proposal. We'll get to that a little bit later on. As this ceremony is beginning, as the family is getting ready, again, Mirabelle puts on a happy face. But we can tell, understandably, that she is a little peeved about the fact that she doesn't have a gift or a miracle of her own. So the big I Want style song for Mirabelle, a la How Far I'll Go in Moana,
Right.
almost there, and in Princess the Frog, which we talked about last week, is waiting on a miracle. So I will reserve my comments for last. What do the two of you think of waiting on a miracle?
There are a lot of things that I like about, Lin-Manuel Miranda loves playing with words and playing with language, but so there's songs, as we'll get to later, that I love the double meanings that he's putting even into the title of the songs. But I think what I really liked about this song and the sequence in which it appears is that it is a waltz tempo song.
Yeah.
That is so it is structurally unique, and and because the sequence itself is showing her walking basically out of time with everyone else around her. Everyone else is moving in slow motion, and she's moving, at the pace that we're sort of experiencing through her song. And there's something about all of those pieces working together, that the song is out of tempo with everyone, the visuals are out of tempo with everyone around her, and I think that becomes a really emotionally effective song for me because all of those things are working together. And I think it's a really nice vocal performance as well. I mean, as I Want songs go, it's a little bit different, and all of those qualities allow it to just kind of give it a little bit of a kick that I really liked.
Well, I mean, I didn't really think of it as an I Want song, although apparently I guess it really is. When you think about it, more of kind of like, it's not an I Want song. It's kind of like I didn't get song.
Mm.
She's not saying I want a miracle. She's waiting on a miracle. She's hoping that something's going to happen that will prove her worth to this family. I think she's already accepted that, this isn't going to happen. And so it's different than something like, Part of Your World, where I'm going to go up there and see what's going to happen. This is actually kind of taking place after the I Want song would have been. So the I Want song would have been her 5-year-old singing, I want whatever I'm going to get when I touch this doorknob. And this is more of kind of a regretful, almost like an angry, not angry, but maybe, she's pissed. I mean, she tells you that. I'm not fine, she says in the song. I'm fine. And she says, I'm not fine. And she's going through this and trying to work her jealousy out because she obviously loves her nephew. It's her nephew, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, it's her cousin, sorry. And she obviously loves him. They shared a room together apparently for a long time. You see them under the bed before he goes to get his gift. And also he brings her up with him, which kind of kicks into the song. I do love the fact that it's in a waltz time because waltzes are kind of make you think of something happier or peppier. And this is working kind of against that. And the one thing that I do notice about Miranda's songs, good and bad, in most of the movies he's done, is that they do still serve the visuals, even if they suck. They serve the visuals in some fashion. So I think that's one of the two things about him that I always found great. The other thing could be a curse, and that, like you said earlier, his songs are sticky. So nothing is worse than a bad song that gets stuck in your head. and he's done a couple of those too. So that's why people think that he's evil, because it's bad enough to write a song that's lousy, but it's 10 times worse when you're humming that song and it's bad. But it's also a great vocal performance as well, like you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And it does really serve you feeling for this character by having her be out of time, like you said.
Yeah, I'm the grouch here. That's the case, clearly. It does not help that I was listening to it and thinking, I literally had a couple days ago after Princess and the Frog, my younger son wanted to watch Moana. And I thought, I love Moana. And I love how far I'll go. Ali Carvalho has such a great voice. And I thought, that's Stephanie Beatriz. I don't know if she could do that song. I think that she delivers a good performance in the film. I think that her singing voice is just naturally not quite as strong, perhaps, and that's not a bad thing, because again, I'm sure I would do a horrendous job of singing any of these songs. But I feel like her performance is stronger as a whole than it is specifically the songs. I think that Waiting on a Miracle is fine. It's okay. I don't even think it's not that it's a bad song. I also couldn't hum a single part of it right now. And I watched this movie yesterday. I could easily rattle off a few of the songs, including Family Madrigal, and a song that obviously we're going to get to it very soon. This one, it's fine, but it kind of floats away in my head. It doesn't really stand out quite in the same way. I think the part that does stand out is less about the song and more about I was trying to grapple with the answer to this question as I watched the film again yesterday, and I was literally on Google, why doesn't she get a gift? Why doesn't she have a gift of her own? And I've seen arguments of, well, because she's the glue that holds the family together. And I think, yeah, that's a shitty explanation. Why doesn't she get a gift?
It's not a good explanation. And to be honest with you, I would not be happy with the quote-unquote gift she eventually gets. I'd be pretty pissed off at the gods. I'd blow that damn candle out. Give me something else. My sister can, bust rocks with her ass. And what do I get? I get to hold the family together. A family that has treated me like crap the entire goddamn movie.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that.
Okay, and again, I think as we're talking about it now, what I like about this song is that it functions similarly to What Else Can I Do and Surface Pressure, in that we get each of the children of Julieta kind of explaining, okay, this is what my life is like, even if it seems like it's supposed to be perfect and things shouldn't be wrong. Clearly, I am more complex than my gift, or in Mirabelle's case, my lack thereof.
All right, I'm going to push back against two things.
Okay, go ahead.
First
please.
of all, I actually think it works better for Mirabelle's character not to have her be a belter. That I think that having the voice be something that has to work a little bit is a little bit, we're sort of feeling a little bit of that. I'm really not as, I don't feel that as good. And if we came out and it was, just some classical Broadway diva's voice, I don't think that works. I think that having the kind of voice that Stephanie Beatrice has works better for the character than having a diva belter voice. And I also do think that having the kind of gift, which is, it's not really about that she is given a gift, it's that the family needed to understand that not having a gift is okay. That was essential to this family's. And yes, I mean, when you talk about the other ways other people treat her, that's basically because it's easier to be that in that family if someone else has taken the heat. Right. Everyone knows that it's like I mean, I don't want to get too grim about this, but someone knows it's like if they're not beating on me and they're beating on somebody else, then that's better for me. And that's what psychologically, that's what's going on here. So I'm suddenly finding myself in a position of defending something. It's like, I like this movie okay, and sometimes, but man, why am I feeling like I have to be the one who's on the side of it? Well, it's funny because
I'm the one that likes it more than both of you.
I know, exactly.
Well, and so I was going to say, I definitely can see your first point, Scott. And it's not that I disagree with the second point. I think it's that I don't know that this movie is quite as effective at grappling with that grimness you're describing, which I think is true, because by the end of the movie, as people who are listening, who have seen the film know, Abuela realizes that maybe she has caused all of the problems that everybody is experiencing without realizing it or owning up to it. But what you're describing is accurate. I just don't know that the movie really reckons with it quite as effectively.
It doesn't have if no one had gotten their powers back, the end of the movie would have been stronger, simply because now everybody's kind of on. She actually has a power, which is like more of a sentimental power. She's holding the family together. But everybody goes back to having their powers, and she basically is back to Mirabelle. What's your job? I'm holding the family together.
And I would also say, Abuela comes to this realization. She clearly has this acknowledgement of, you know what, I have screwed you over. Not
right.
Whereas, I don't know that anybody else really, at least in the way that I would have liked, admits their own, their own contribution to this family dynamic. And again, it's the kind of thing that made me think of two very random films, both technically in the Disney umbrella. One of them, a movie that, Wreck-It Ralph, a movie that if you've listened to the show long enough, the old show, I really don't like Wreck-It Ralph. In terms of characters who are absolute jerks to our main character, don't really own up to it by the end. The other one is Home Alone, weirdly enough. I was thinking a lot about Home Alone as I watched this, because Kevin isn't quite the same, and I should also note, I don't like Home Alone, but Home Alone is also about a big house and a big family acting like jerks to one member of that family. It doesn't go quite in the same direction after the setup. But anyway, so after go ahead. Go ahead.
Jump a second. I think that you're half right about the rest of the family not catching on, but I do think we'll discuss it later when we get to that song. I do think there's some acknowledgement, at least by one of the sisters at some point, that I was kind of a bitch to you. So there is some point to that. The one thing I thought of when you mentioned about the voice not being a belcher made me think of Gypsy, of all things, and how Gypsy, how Gypsy's character, she sings "Let Me Entertain You." She's not a belter. Like, that song isn't belted out the way something like Some People or the other songs that were sung by, Rose, are that strong voice. And you go to someone like Gypsy, she's like, I'm not really a stripper. I'm not really this belter. And that kind of gives her a song where she doesn't have to belt anything out. So maybe that's kind of a similar thought. Knowing Miranda's love of theater, it might have crossed his mind to give her a song that, I'm going to give her a song that she's going to have to kind of struggle a little bit to sing, but it's not going to be that difficult. It's almost like Send in the Clowns, God Help Me, a song I absolutely despise, written specifically for Glynis John's voice talent.
I was going to say, and we should also, Lin-Manuel Miranda, a big fan of Stephen Sondheim. I believe he did one of the West Side Story revivals. He wrote Spanish language lyrics to a few of the songs, I think. So, but I mean, listen, there's a lot we could say overall. I do want to make sure we move on a little bit. So,
oh, sorry.
No. Hey, listen, I believe I opened this door. Speaking of course, how's this? So. I should also note, around this time, when we're leading up to Antonio's ceremony, there is part of a song that we hear a little bit near the end as well. It's one of those Spanish language songs, Colombia Mi Encanto. And it's a very nice song, and you don't hear the full song in the opening. The one thing that I wanted to bring up that I definitely do not recall at my press screening. Do either of you recall in your situations when you saw this movie in theaters, not on Disney Plus, were there English subtitles for these Spanish language songs?
No.
Okay. Same for me, and I note that because I know I'm the youngest of the three of us, but I also am very used to putting on subtitles or closed captions when I watch anything on any streaming service. And when I watched Encanto yesterday, I was surprised that they had English language subtitles for those two songs, which, again, they weren't there in this press screening, and not so much with Colombia Mi Encanto, but with, another song. I think those would have been real helpful in adding context.
I think that's, well, let's save that for that actual song.
Yes. But I mean, was there anything either of you wanted to add though for Colombia Mi Encanto? It's a nice piece of music, not maybe a stand-up, but again, written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, so I don't want to completely move past it.
I think it's pretty.
It's a lovely song. Lovely
sure.
lovely song.
So, agreed. So as the celebration is going on, Mirabel notices that Casita seems to be cracking, literally. It is beginning to break apart almost at the seams. And although she lets Alma, her abuela, know what's going on, the cracks that she saw by herself have vanished when the entire family comes to see them. And Mirabel can't really get it out of her head. She tries to do some digging. She first talks with her older sister, Louisa, who, as mentioned, she has superhuman strength. And as they're having this conversation, Mirabel realizes that while Louisa is this super strong person, she maybe is having some difficulties handling the surface pressure. Surface pressure, of course, is the name of the song in question, performed by Justin Darrow. What do the two of you think of surface pressure?
Okay, this is my song.
Okay.
This is the Odie is Miss Arlene's eldest boy song. Well, I'm her oldest kid in general. I'm her oldest. I identify with this song quite a bit, and I think it gets a bad rap. But the whole idea of having all this pressure on you to kind of be the family strong person. I'm the oldest. I have 4 younger siblings. They're all a year apart. And so I'm 7 years older than the next one. And they're all a year apart. So they were all together, and I had to take care of all 4 of them. It's the reason why I don't have any kids. Sorry, Mom. And just that whole idea of being the person that has to shoulder everything. I was left on the island by myself. My siblings got all the attention. Even to this day, they get all the attention, and I was just left to fend for myself. So I really felt this song. I think it goes to the chorus well, maybe 1 or 2 times too many, but it's incredibly catchy, and I think it's that the little break in the middle of the song, I think, is one of the best things that Lin-Manuel Miranda actually did. It's kind of like all of a sudden the song kind of opens up and it's relaxing for a second. She's flying through the sky and she's saying, what if I didn't have this pressure? And then it goes back into, what I'll call Billy Joel homage. Because he did a song called Pressure, and it kind of almost has the same kind of relentless thing driving it. This is a reggaeton version of that. But, I mean, I really dig this song. And I dig the donkey choreography. And as aforementioned, her busting rocks with her ass. But yeah, this is the song I identify more than anything else in the entire movie. It's like, okay, I am this character. I thought I was Mirabelle, but it turns out I'm actually Louise.
Is this like one of those take a quiz kind of things? Are you a Mirabelle? Or are you?
Yeah, I think if you ask my family, I'm probably Bruno, but nevertheless. It's like what Chuck Jones said. Everybody thinks they're Bugs Bunny, but they wake up and they're Daffy Duck.
Or the Coyote. Yeah. I mean, I love the tune of the song. This is one of those where I do sometimes feel the strain. You know, sometimes Lin-Manuel's lyrics push a little too hard trying to get their rhymes or approximate rhymes. I don't need trying to rhyme Three-Ring Circus with Wanna Fight Cerberus. You know?
Yeah, that was one of his. Come on, Lin.
So there are those kinds of moments that I feel like but I just think about this, and the song like starts with the drip drip drip, and I'm just bopping. It's just it's really. And again, I do think that it's a great piece of animation to this song too, which I think is true of most of the song. The song sequences are so much stronger overall than most of the rest of the material because they are really directed to the songs. And I think that this is another example that it's really animated to the music in a really effective way.
Right. And this is my talking about him being evil. And that it's catchy, whether you like that drip, 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 just don't stop. I mean, it's going to get in your head, and it's not coming out. It's almost like that horrible, the song from Little Mermaid about the scuttlebutt. It's horrible, but I could sing you the song.
I'm glad that I can't. Listen, I've chosen not to mention the scuttlebutt at this point in the discussion.
This is the second I mentioned the scuttlebutt.
We don't talk about scuttlebutt.
Yeah, well,
we definitely do.
Just to do it.
we don't talk about Aquafina. That's what I would say.
Right.
I definitely. It's funny. I probably like this song less than either of you, but I do like the song, and I do also want to echo something Scott just said. I definitely think that the song sequences themselves. This is one specifically where if I listen to the song by itself, it's like, yes, this is good. It's got a good beat. Coupled with the animation, I think it really works very well. You know, the whole movie has this magical realism bubbling through it from the start, and I think that bringing that to life in these sequences really helps them shine. And again, much more so than even the non-musical sequences, even when, as we'll get to very soon, Mirabelle is going through the cavernous expanse of the house to get to Bruno or to Bruno's area. I know we're not supposed to talk about it, but we're going to have to soon. I would also say, I put it down in my notes here, it applies to the entire movie and to a number of films. It really goes to the sense that so many Disney animated films are about how the parents and grandparents of the main characters are just the fucking worst. I remember one of the times I watched Frozen or Frozen 2, I was like, I think the villains of these movies are Anna and Elsa's parents because they really screwed those kids up. Something fierce. And it's true of so many other animated films. Like I was literally last night I was reading my son a little golden book version of Beauty and the Beast, and I always think, what happened to that prince's parents? How did he get raised to be such a jerk to begin with? And this one I think goes in the same sense because this is the first part of the movie where Mirabelle realizes my golden child siblings are maybe not enjoying having these gifts as much as I would assume that they are. And I think Jessica Darrow does a fine job. I think that, like, the other thing I was thinking, especially with the family Madrigal, Stephanie Beatriz is given a very heavy task where she really has to go very quickly through a lot of lyrics and make it coherent and logical. And I think it's a challenge for a lot of actors. Jessica Darrow has that same kind of speed, but I think it works. She does a much better job of it, I would say. So I'd always kind of walked out of like not immediately walking out, but this and the next big song are the ones that I think most people seem to love most of all the songs. I mean, that's at least what I had always assumed. But anyway, so moving on, and I should note, it was around here that I wrote in my notes. I'd forgotten that it kind of takes a while to get to John Leguizamo, who voices Bruno, because while the character is alluded to a number of times early in the film, as everyone knows, we don't talk about Bruno. So there's not really any attempt on Mirabel's part to learn more until after Louisa gives Mirabel this idea that maybe the secret to why the magic is fading is something in Bruno's room. Mirabel first finds this vision made of emerald that suggests that either the casita is going to crack and be saved, or that Mirabel may inadvertently destroy the casita. She can't help herself. She keeps, trying to investigate. She does so, I should note, after this very manic sequence that kind of leads to the casita cracking even further and people losing control of their gifts. It's during this attempted marriage proposal by one of Manuel's neighbors, his character Mariano, voiced by Maluma, who I assume is I'm sorry, I'm looking at Wikipedia. Wikipedia tells me he is a singer, rapper, and actor.
A Brazilian soccer player, and a single named.
He is a man who wears many hats, right? That's what I think we can say.
A multi-hyphenate.
There you go, a multi-hyphenate, exactly. And you know what it is? I just realized he was in that Jennifer Lopez movie, Marry Me, I think.
Duh.
Yes, he was. I just looked right now.
I'm sure that's not on his resume.
Can I tell you something? I think that was a COVID movie where I thought this movie is more tolerable than I would expect, so I think I gave that a pretty pass. But that came out the spring after Encanto.
Right.
Point being, so Mariano tries to propose to the perfect child of Julieta's family, Mirabel's perfect sister, Isabella, who is able to make plants grow instantly. As I said, there is this wild, manic, I would argue a little sweaty, frantic sequence that leads to the casita cracking. Mirabel then goes on this deeper journey to find Bruno, who she is shocked to learn never actually left the casita. Everybody has pretended to stop talking about him, but she finds out that he's been there the whole time. And I got ahead of myself. We get to the big song before she actually discovers Bruno, because as I've alluded many times, we don't talk about Bruno. Now, here's what I will say. When I saw this movie in theaters with my son again, my son was a little restless.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought back to when I saw Frozen the first time at a press screening, whereas I was watching it, I've mentioned this, I think, in a past episode. I don't like to listen to the soundtracks of new movies before I see the film. If it's a movie with music, with songs in it, I like to see the songs in context. So when I saw Frozen, I had not heard Let It Go. I watched the movie, I heard Let It Go, and I thought, well, that's going to be a pretty big song, probably. I don't think I would have known how big, but it was very clear that that was the song of the movie. And if you had asked me after Encanto, what's the song? I would have said, well, obviously we don't talk about Bruno, because it's the catchiest song in the movie. It's the song where it feels like everybody involved knows this is the centerpiece musical sequence. It's not a ballad, to be sure, and certainly some of those other big the song examples are power ballads. But this one kind of felt like this has to be the song. And it was interesting to learn after the fact, as we can talk about later, Disney did not maybe put their full might and emphasis behind that song until after the movie was on streaming on Disney Plus over the holidays in 2021. And basically everybody online started talking about Bruno, which this song expressly tells you not to do.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, to me, this is the best song of the film. It is the catchiest. It is the one that you kind of can't get away from. I feel like this year's equivalent is it's any of the songs from K-pop Demon Hunters, which my children have unfortunately fallen in love with as well. So like it's the 2021 version of Golden or Soda Pop or Your Idol, etc. But what did the two of you think about We Don't Talk About It?
Well, I as soon as it was over, I wanted to hear it again. This is Act One closer. If we're going to continue my little thing about Lin-Manuel Miranda making this the most theatrical of his scores, this is the Act One closer. This is what you get before you get the intermission, where everybody comes together in this big giant thing, and it makes you want to see what happens next. And the thing that is most interesting about it, I never really caught on to this until I was listening to it again, because I've probably heard this 18 million times, in context when I was watching the movie. Bruno's visions, they kind of stink. They're not exactly like, he's like Miss Cleo. Like, so basically, I could figure out that, oh, my hair would disappear. And look at I could figure out the guy's going to go bald. I think the guy's going to have a gut. The chick's fish is going to die. I mean, these visions that are happening, it's not like the woman came out and said, he told me I would die. Next day I was dead. That's tough. But it was funny because I'm like, there's a mountain they're making mountains out of molehills of these prophecies of Bruno's. And he's being ostracized because he told the priest he's going to go bald. So I was thinking about that. But again, this is Miranda at his most powerful. He's able to write a song that not only gets stuck in your head, but moves the story, and gives you an idea of a character, and has an ensemble piece. I mean, this thing is choreographed, even though it's animated, choreographed to hell. I mean, it's just wonderful to watch. The whole entire thing is that the shot where the camera spins around and then suddenly she's outside. And then you get the whole fish will die and that kind of thing, all these premonitions that are in the song. It's just a great little moment of theater of this happening and sweeping you through the song. And it's fun. I mean, it's a fun song. Did I think it would be like this huge, enormous hit? No, but I was like, okay, if this song doesn't win the Oscar, I'll eat my hat. And they didn't even submit it. So I know something. The same thing happened with You're Welcome. I think if You're Welcome had been submitted, instead of How Far I'll Go, which I think is a better song that got submitted than the one that got submitted from this movie, it would have won. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda would have had his EGOT, and everybody would have hated him even more. But that's not what happened. But I never would have thought that this would be like this huge #1 hit, and that I would go to the gay bar and everybody's singing it at the piano, including me. But no, as soon as it was over, I was like, I want to hear this again. Like, I actually sat up thinking, like, this is actually freaking brilliant. And Disney didn't agree with us.
Okay, so first of all, well, I wanted to actually back up just because the way you're describing Bruno's visions is somehow reminding me of the vintage SNL sketch with Christopher Walken that was playing off of The Dead Zone, which is the trivial psychic. He touches someone, it's like, you will get an ice cream headache. It will be very painful.
Yes.
But I am not going to even pretend I liked it the first time I heard it. I did not hear it as, well, that's the song. To me, Surface Pressure was the song. That was the one I came out of there going, this is going to be the song. And so I am just not even going to pretend that, if you saw this as the obvious best song, good on you. I was not there. And I still, for me, it is not the best. It's not my favorite. And it's a song I like a lot. Again, particularly because, as with most of these, it is a great set piece. It is a great production number. It is a great combination of animation and storytelling and a catchy ditty. But congratulations to all those who were right on board from day one, because I just didn't see it. I did not see it coming at all.
What can I say, Scott? We've been gifted with the second sight. These important things. Well, but hang on. Surface Pressure would have been a perfectly fine nominee, I think.
Oh no, I think it would have been a perfectly fine nominee. Like I said, it's my little theme song. So those are the two songs I love most in the movie, and either one of them would have been fine by me. But I figured. I mean, again, maybe I'm a big old theater queen, or because I did musical theater. I'm like, this song is like, this is the Oscar song. I've said that about several songs in the past. And chances are I wound up being wrong because the song doesn't even get submitted, but would have probably have one if it did get submitted. Like when I heard That Thing You Do.
Oh, yes.
I heard it 22 million times the song. In fact, in my review of That Thing You Do, I said two things. I said, one, I never want to hear this song again. And two, if it loses the Oscar, I will eat my hat. And of course, it lost the Oscar, but at least it was nominated.
That's true.
A lot of hats.
I was going to say it. It just makes me think of, I think it was Matt Patches, who for a long time on Twitter X the everything out, had said that if there was ever a Top Gun Maverick, he would eat a shoe. And
He's eat a shoe, and he ate a shoe.
He
like
did.
That Werner Herzog.
Yeah, they finally did it. I mean, I will clarify it. I definitely wouldn't have said We Don't Talk About Bruno was going to be as big as it was. That would be ridiculous.
No, and I agree with you on that. I didn't think it was going to be like a sensation. I figured it would just win the Oscar and that'd be that.
But it was so, it just felt like that was that or Surface Pressure or the Family Madrigal, for example. I think any of those songs would have made sense as a song that people grabbed onto, that they latched onto. But instead, that's not the case. So, I'm going to get the Oscar stuff soon. So, again, she finds Bruno. She is shocked that he's never left the casita. And I do want to echo what Odie said. I wrote it in my notes. I was like, are his visions that specific, or is it like, I think it might rain and now you're going to freak out, so you make it rain since you control the weather. It's very
John Edwards. It's very John Edwards.
I was going to say it's self-fulfilling prophecies, people. That was what I wrote in my notes. But anyway, so again, she finds Bruno, and then Mirabelle sees a new vision that Bruno creates that seems to suggest that Mirabelle and Isabella are going to repair their relationship. That seems to strengthen the magic. So Mirabelle goes to Isabella, but Isabella is demanding an apology about how bad that proposal went, in spite of the fact that, as Mirabelle learns, Isabella doesn't even really want to marry Mariano. She just wants to do what she thinks is right for the family. And in the middle of this argument, Isabella learns that she can not only conjure up the most beautiful plants and flowers, but she can even conjure up a cactus, which is meant to suggest something thornier, something a little, maybe not quite as perfect. So that leads to the next song, What Else Can I Do? Now, I want to emphasize, I think the song sequence works really well. I like the music, but as I wrote in my notes, I think, maybe it's just me, I think it is a calculated and unwise decision to wait this long to let us understand who Isabella actually is as a character. She becomes so much more interesting to me as a character in this song, which I think takes place more than an hour into the movie. It takes a while, I think, to get to her song. And I do want to note broadly, this movie spaces out its songs pretty well. We've talked about a handful of movies here on the show where, once you hit an hour in and there's 3 minutes left, there's no more songs until maybe the closing finale or reprise of some other song. This one spaces out more, which I like. But the flip side is, and I think I can hear Scott sighing in the background. You'll get your turn to tell me why I'm wrong. I wish that we got to know Isabella more before this song, because I like the sequence. I just think it takes too long to get there. What are the two of you?
Well, Scott, since you you wanted to talk, I'll let you go first.
Well, I'm here. No, it's not really. I'm struggling with the fact that I know that there is a grain of truth to what you're saying, Josh, about how long it takes. And yet I also know that there's almost a need for there to be that tension of whether she's actually the bitchy, self-absorbed person until we get there. That spacing those things out is something that's okay, and yet I have the same thing. It's like, would it have killed them to have it be a little earlier? So that's the part I'm actually like, I don't know how much I agree or how much I disagree, because I don't know whether that structural choice works well enough to justify the length it takes. But it's another song that I like a lot because, and again, this is something I was alluding to earlier, that I like, even though I can mock with the rest of us some of the ways that Lin-Manuel can push his language, just the idea of the what else can I do as both what else am I able to do as a person that I am? I can only do what I am. And the sort of that yearning, what else can I do? How can I help make the situation better? The way that those two things both work in this song is something that I really just love, that concept and how it works is in the psychology of creating the characters, in addition to it being another, what I think is pretty catchy tune.
I think this is the I Want song. More of an I Want song than Waiting on a Miracle. And that when she finally figures out that it takes Mirabelle's aggravation of her to make her make a cactus, which is kind of odd because you would think she's been aggravating for the entire movie. It should be a whole desert surrounding Isabella by this point. But it's what else can I do? So now she's like, okay, well, now I'm free. I'm free from being perfect. And this is something that is not new. I've seen other movies where characters seem to be perfect, and all of a sudden, the cracks start to show, and they start to realize that I don't have to be perfect anymore, and that's when they actually become more human. So I think the whole purpose of the song and the whole plot element of it is true, and I agree with you. I think it takes a little bit too long for you to get to this. They're throwing a couple of lines and are giving Isabella a look. Because something I caught this time that I'd never seen before, we don't talk about Bruno, when Isabella's coming down and she's saying, he taught me that, then if you look at Mirabelle, she's looking at her like, this bitch. The expression on her face, I'm like, I never caught that. Like, she's like, oh my God, here comes Miss Perfect. And it's hilarious, a little piece of detail. Something like that on the opposite from Isabella would have made this work a little better in terms of waiting so long for you to get to it. Because you don't really get any. She's pretty much consistently the same character until this point. Mm. Whereas you see Mirabelle there's a little bit of snarkiness, a little bit of painess to her that you see. And then you also see Louisa and her eye shaking and that kind of thing. You get a little bit of details early on, but Isabella is completely static until this moment. So I agree with you that it takes too long for this to happen. I still think it's a good song. And a good sequence.
And again, it's where I often wonder, especially with more modern animated musicals, how much initial collaboration you get with the composers. We know that people like Howard Ashman and Alan Menken were heavily involved in the early days of a movie like The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
But we also know, as I'm sure the two of you know and many of our listeners do, that these movies, their stories change frequently during production. And so I wonder if that's something that you're looped into, especially when you're at a level like Lin-Manuel Miranda, where, you're a very big name. You're, depending on a person's familiarity with the people in this film, you're potentially more well-known than the actors in this movie. And also, you're talking about a guy who's very busy, because this was the same year as Vivo, another animated film that he starred in and wrote songs for. That was on Netflix. The point being, I wonder how much things might have changed from initial conception until reality. But anyway, so after What Else Can I Do, there is the big blowout argument that we know has kind of been building for the entire movie between Alma, Mirabelle's abuela, and Mirabelle herself. There's this big argument of, you don't like this family because you don't have a gift, and Mirabelle pushes back and says, it is your behavior, it is how you treat this family and the expectations you have for everybody. That's the reason why all these things are happening. And then the casita itself basically collapses, that everybody's powerless. Mirabelle runs off, and that's when Alma and Mirabelle have this heart-to-heart. They kind of come to terms with each other. They each realize their faults, and this all happens during a sequence set to a song, an Academy Award-nominated song, called Dos Oruguitas. I apologize for what I'm sure is a terrible pronunciation of that word.
It is.
It is. So here, you know what? I'm putting how do I pronounce that?
Oruguitas.
Oruguitas. The U is silent because there's no umlaut on the U. So when U between Q and E and between Q and E, Q and I, G and I, and G and E, the U is silent in Spanish.
Okay.
Thank you, Senor Almabert, my Spanish teacher in high school.
I am glad that you internalized your Spanish much better than I ever did when I took it in college.
Qué bueno, qué bueno.
There you go. Okay. See, and listen, I'd like to remind all of our listeners that, yes, it's embarrassing that I don't know how to pronounce that word, but I kept this in. I'm keeping this in so you could all hear me being an idiot. Please appreciate that. Okay, so that's aside. So this song functions, I would argue, similarly to Remember Me and Coco, or I actually made a comparison in my notes to the married life sequence in Up, by which I mean the song is being sung by an off-screen performer. And I guess that's not quite Remember Me, but Remember Me does have that kind of the key moment in the third act when Miguel is singing it to his Mama Coco as a way to bring back her memories. It's a very emotional moment. This is meant to serve, I would argue, in a similar, this is the emotional peak of the movie. If it is working well, you are getting teary-eyed, if not full-out sobbing, as we see a slightly more detailed version of what happened to Alma and to her husband as they attempted to escape this civil war, as he died in the process, saving her and their triplets. And I want to bring up for two reasons. So I mentioned earlier the English subtitles, which were not in the film when it was in theaters, but they're there now, which I think is very helpful, but also makes me wonder why they weren't there to begin with, because, as I think we all know now, I do not speak Spanish. So I hear that song in theaters and I think, this is a nice, sad song, and I don't really know why I should care that much about the song. I understand why what's happening on screen matters emotionally for characters, but the song doesn't really stand out to me too much. Now, at least, I definitely understand a lot more what it's trying to do, but I think it's an interesting creative choice. And obviously, there are many people who saw this film who either can speak Spanish better than I can, either it's not their first language, or Spanish is their first language, or a shared language. I think it is a risky choice. I just don't think it paid off very well. But then again, I don't know how to pronounce the word caterpillars in Spanish correctly. Because, by the way, for those of you out there who may not know, that essentially the title translates to two little caterpillars.
Yes.
So what do the two of you think about this song?
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Go for it.
I think that the lack of subtitles is a double-edged sword. I think in this case, it's a mistake. In Coco, it wasn't a mistake. I think in Coco, that on purpose, they left out, there were no translations of some of the dialogue of some of the lyrics on purpose. Mm-hmm. This being the heart of the movie, the 11 o'clock number, again, I'm going to stick to my theater things here. This is the 11 o'clock number in this movie. That the fact that a lot of people couldn't understand the words of the song became a little bit of a problem. I mean, the images sell it well enough where you understand, if you don't speak Spanish, what's kind of happening, and also the way it's sung by the Colombian singer, the famous singer who does the song, the emotional level of it, you can hear it. So if you don't understand the words, you at least get a feel for what's happening through the visuals and through the way the song is interpreted. But at the same time, this is the emotional heart of the movie, and a lot of people don't know what is being said in the song. I was able, I took 5 years of Spanish, and I grew up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood, so I try not to read the subtitles when something's in Spanish or in German or in French, the languages that I speak or purport to speak. I try not to read the subtitles and try to just listen and try to hear what's going on. And the song is slow enough for me to, if the family Madrigal had been in Spanish, I would have been screwed. But, but this is slow enough for me to understand the words. It's a very pretty song. I think Miranda said it was the first song he wrote in Spanish outright, straight out, without doing the English lyrics first, which is, a feat. But at the end of the day, I think it becomes a problem because you lose something if you don't understand it. And the same thing that they were doing at West Side Story, when they decided we're not going to translate the lyrics, what it does in a way, it otherizes the characters in West Side Story. It doesn't do it here because everybody here is in Spanish. So, but in West Side Story, with them not translating into the lyrics, they thought, well, we're being nice for Spanish people. But like, yeah, but you're otherizing it. And I think that's the problem here, and I think that's why it lost the Oscar. I mean, if there's an English version of it at the end of the movie, which is pretty close to what it is in Spanish, lyrically. But how many people stayed to watch the credits go up and hear this song 3 minutes into the credits in English?
Yeah. I mean, so like you, my Spanish is still pretty good, even though I don't use it nearly as much. And again, when it's something slow. So it really didn't occur to me to be thinking about, all the people who are not going to get it. But it's also weird because lyrically, it doesn't really have a lot to do with what's going on screen.
No.
So it's, you can tell it's this wonderful love ballad, but it's not really, I mean, okay, we get the sense that she loves her husband and obviously is sad is gone, as one would be. I mean, this is not an unusual thing. Your husband dies and you're sad. But there's not a lot lyrically going on in sort of this is more a song about the experience of having to change, which is what the abuela is having to do as she's telling the story than what's going on in the story she's telling.
Yes.
So it's an odd little thing. It seems like it's the song that she should be sharing as a duet with Mirabel rather than his. So anyway, that's a whole other thing. But it's just still funny to me that because, Orguitas is just a lovelier word than it's even in the English translation. We don't go two caterpillars. It's not.
No.
It's not the way that they chose to do it. But it's a song that I really enjoy listening to because it's a pretty song, but it's, as opposed to some of the other ones, I'm sitting there going, okay, but really? Here with this thing that I'm watching? I don't know. It didn't quite work in that way.
Yeah, I think that the abuela, she needed to sing a song in this part here because it's about her emotions. And again, the song is more symbolic, like a folk song that could probably stand on its own without any kind of context, which is probably the reason why Disney submitted it in the first place for the Oscars. But from an emotional perspective, like you said, it really isn't about her. It's a more like symbolic song. I love, love song about change and about these two caterpillars that become mariposas, which is butterflies. That's another great word. They don't translate that word in English.
Yes, right.
They actually say keep mariposa. But again, you lose something in that. Again, from feeling wise, it's there. But I think it would have been so much more and worked so much better if she sang it, or if you said it was a duet between her and or her and her husband, for example, who just basically is he's a symbol. I think that's one of the other things the movie doesn't really like figure out how to handle, is that he just becomes this symbol and nothing else. There's really nothing else to him, but he's a picture on the wall. And then when he's killed, off screen, but you don't really get a feel for Abuela's pain. Mm-hmm. And this song gives you a little bit of feel for it in terms of the way it sounds. But as you point out, it doesn't really have anything to do with her. Mm-hmm. So I think you lose something there. I still think it's a pretty song, and in and out of context, I think it works better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's basically where I fall with it as well. So after this song's over, the two characters, Alma and Mirabel, reconcile. Bruno shows up, and Alma is of course shocked, but also overjoyed to see her son again. They return. They rebuild the casita. The gifts are restored, and the movie ends. The last big song is "All of You," a song that all of them sing together, including Olga Merediz as the abuela. This is a perfectly nice song. It's a nice, fine song. I will say, again, you're not meant to ask questions of a certain type when you're watching a movie like this. You need to suspend your disbelief. So one of the questions I know I'm not supposed to ask is, why does everybody else in the town think it's totally cool and normal that everybody else has these weird gifts, but they don't? It doesn't really stand in my way of my overall opinion of the film, but I was thinking specifically about that question during this song. But otherwise, it's fine. It's an okay song. I don't think it's the strongest song of the bunch, but it's a fine closing number. I at least appreciate that it is a fully new song and not, let's reprise the family madrigal to close out the movie or something. What do the two of you think?
You want to go first?
Sure. This is another one of those where I just really enjoyed the double meaning of the title, that it's both the all of you, all of the people, and I actually accept all of you as an individual person. And so but it is not musically as interesting. And so it's not one that I could not hum right now. I don't really know what it's kind of functional in that way. But actually to return to the idea of why the rest of the townspeople are so, what their relationship is to the family. I feel you talked about, were there other versions of the script? I wonder if there was a version of this where they're protecting everyone in this little bubble of a town from the horrible things going on in the world outside. And that's what it feels like. So. That's what it feels like they're sort of insinuating, is like, well, as long as they have the magic, we're all going to be okay. but okay from? It's like, are there raiding parties of,
Right.
revolutionaries outside their door? I don't know, but they're not going to be too specific about that kind of thing, but it kind of feels like what they're kind of nudge hinting at.
I agree with you on that, because when the power starts to go, people start showing up to ask Umbrella for help. The townspeople are getting worried about the power. So there has to be this has got to be some kind of Shangri-La or some bubble that exists where you're under the dome and you're protected from everything, all the horrible things that are going around, so long as that candle remains lit. But I got a theory about this song. And so, you're Lin-Manuel Miranda and you're writing the score for this thing. And you get to the end of the last song and you say, wait a minute, I don't have any rap in the entire thing. The closest thing I've come to is the little part with the cousin, and then we don't talk about Bruno, which we don't have really a rap part here. So I got to write something that's got a rap part in it. So this is the song I'm going to put it in, because I've run out of other songs. It's the last one. I'm going to have John Leguizamo do a little bit of rapping in here. That's my theory.
Because as good as anything.
He could have just reprised the Family Madrigal, as busy as that song was, and he could have gotten some extra lyrics out of it.
At the very least, it is in the same way that I think it's interesting that he's not in much of the movie. It's like, I remember the first time seeing it, like, he's going to get a song, right? Because I know John Leguizamo is a performer. He's not, he's a comedian, he's an actor, he's a writer, but it's like, he could do rap. Like, why wouldn't he? Why
he's done it.
I know, but it's like, why wouldn't he do that in a more prominent way as opposed to one little bit of this song, including a bit where he references Frozen for about 2 seconds.
Right.
I forgot that he did the Let It Go. But anyway, those are the songs in the film. And as mentioned a few times, this movie, so Encanto was actually nominated for 3 Academy Awards in 2021 at the 94th Academy Awards. And first was obviously Best Animated Feature. The other nominees, because Encanto won that year, were the aforementioned Raya and the Last Dragon, a movie that I definitely saw and do not remember a single second of. And sadly, didn't have songs. We'll never talk about it in this show. A movie called Flea, the Pixar film Luca, and the movie that I would say should have won, which was from Sony and Netflix, The Mitchells versus the Machines.
I would have gone with Flea. Flea was in my top 10 that year. I mean, I like the Mitchells and the Machines too.
And what was unique about Flea that year?
It was up for 2 Oscars.
It was up for 3 Oscars.
That's right, 3. You're right. Yes.
It was animated feature, international feature, and documentary feature.
Mm-hmm.
And
never happened again.
Yep, and never happened before. Yeah.
Well, and I'm looking through to see, did it win either of the other ones?
No, it won nothing.
Oh well.
It's a Diane Warren of no.
Hang on now, Odie.
Diane Warren
hold your tongue. I was gonna say we're gonna get to Diane Warren very soon, but so the movie was also nominated for Best Original Score. Although Lin-Manuel Miranda did write the songs, he did not write the score. That was Jermaine Franco. Now, do either of you know off the top of your head what won for Best Original Score that year?
Was that horrible score from Dune?
Odie, you win the golden prize. You win the prize. Yes, Hans Zimmer's score for Dune won that year. And I have to be honest, I don't know that. Well, I'm sorry, I know what I would have given it to simply because of the nominee. So the other nominations were Nicholas Britell for Don't Look Up, and in case you're wondering, don't look that up on Netflix. It's terrible.
Don't Look Up is terrible. Yeah,
I hated that.
Me too. 10 worst list.
Parallel Mothers.
That's what I would have given it to.
I would have given it to that was Alberto Iglesias was the composer there. And the 5th nominee, the one that I would have given it to, partly because I still don't think he has one, is Johnny Greenwood for The Power of the Dog.
I forgot he was nominated that year. I still would have given it to Parallel Mothers. That's a fantastic, maybe the best Almodovar score that Iglesias has done for him.
Well, again, Johnny Greenwood is my pick, but again, now this year he probably is going to get the Oscar for a movie I know Odie loves very much. I tease, Odie.
We almost got through this without having to talk about all of these other movies that Odie hates.
Well, no, I don't hate One Bathroom. I gave it 2 stars. So you said Marty Supreme, we would have had a conversation on how much I hate Marty Supreme, but One Bathroom Another has some good things in it, one of which is actually the score. So,
fair enough. There you go. See,
So,
I spoke too soon again. But anyway, so
Diane Warren, we got to talk about Miss Warren here.
well, yes, I was going to say, so Encanto won for Best Animated Feature, lost for Best Original Score, and it did lose for Best Original Song. As mentioned, Dos Oruguitas, I hope I got it a little better that time. I'm not going to try again today because I'm obviously butchering the language. But that was the one nominee. And again, I was trying to look it up. I don't even recall if Disney submitted any other songs from Encanto.
Isn't this true that after all the crazy Alan Menken stuff, that the Academy instituted a rule that you can only submit one song from a movie?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that's Disney's fault? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the reason why they only submitted Dos Oruguitas instead of, the other ones.
That must be what it was. I will say I don't like that rule, and I also think I want to echo something Odie said earlier. I like How Far I'll Go. That should not have been the song that they submitted. And the Oscars, I think at the very least, if just for the idea of what if The Rock performed this song on the Oscars stage.
I was looking, when I heard You're Welcome, I was at the theater. I did not see Moana on the press screening because I didn't review it. I bought a ticket and I went to see it at the Regal, Union Square. And The Rock started singing, I actually almost jumped out of my chair like, he's going to be on the Oscars singing this song. So getting Blame Canada.
But sadly, not the case. Now, and it's funny, I'm also looking at the short list of other songs that were potentially going to be nominated but didn't even get to the top 5. They included, I didn't even realize Don't Look Up had a song.
I didn't either.
It did. It was called Just Look Up, and it was by Kid Cudi and a potential Academy Award winner this year, Ariana Grande. There's also a song from Coda, the Best Picture winner, called Beyond the Shore. So May We Start from Annette and
Annette. Ugh.
Well, here, I have to mention this song because if you've listened to this podcast long enough, you know how much I love You Talking You Do to Me. I can only imagine what Scott and Scott would have talked about with the Sing 2 song, Your Song Saved My Life by U2. Didn't even get an Academy Award nomination that year. So, the nominees were the song from Encanto. There was also from King Richard, Be Alive.
Was that the Beyonce song?
Yeah.
That was the Beyonce song,
okay.
Yes. There was Down to Joy from Belfast, written by Van Morrison. There was from Diane Warren the song Somehow You Do from a movie called 4 Good Days, which stars, it looks like, Glenn Close and Mila Kunis.
Which I saw and is a good movie.
So Diane Warren, she's the reason why there's a Tyler Perry movie with an Oscar nomination.
One of these days, maybe Diane Warren will win her Oscar, but it wasn't for that movie. And all I will say, if you're out there and you're thinking, Glenn Close and Mila Kunis, when have I seen them in another movie? Hopefully you saw Wake Up Dead when you
Yes.
And that is an excellent movie. I haven't seen this movie.
It's an excellent movie.
Yes.
What actually won? I forgot what won.
Do you remember, Scott, what won?
Oh yes.
Why don't you tell Odie?
It was the end of the trio of themes. No Time to Die by Billie Eilish.
No Time? Yes.
That may be... James Bond songs should not sound like songs they play over wounded animals and ASPCA commercial ads. Okay? It should not sound like some sweepy white woman singing a song. So sorry, Billie Eilish. And I had to apologize to Adele because I could not stand that Skyfall song.
Oh.
It's the best of the 3 weepy ass Bond songs to win. Like, Shirley Bassey will never be asked to sing a Bond song again.
I was going to say, I will say, I agree that Skyfall is the best of the 3 Academy Award winning James Bond songs. I think Skyfall is a pretty good song. It's not Shirley Bassey level because that's a pretty high bar, but I do enjoy that. Now, and I've also
put me to sleep.
Fair enough. Now, I'm looking through the other big awards that this film would have won, at least for its songs. At the Annie Awards, the Animation Awards, this one for Best Music, so Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jermaine Franco shared that award. I believe at the Grammys in the early days of 2023, Best Song Written for Visual Media, that went to We Don't Talk About Bruno, obviously.
Of course.
Because by that point, this song was
it was number
massive.
1.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that beat out a Taylor Swift song. I'm looking at the nominees. apparently she wrote a song called Carolina for the movie Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh, that's right. I remember that people were screaming because she didn't that was shortlisted and she didn't get nominated.
Yep. And funny enough, this beat out another Billie Eilish song. Because, now I don't know what either of you think, but I remember definitely loving the movie Turning Red. I liked the song Nobody Like You. That's the song that she and Phineas O'Connell wrote for that movie that lost the Grammy. But I also wanted to note one thing that we haven't really acknowledged here. This movie came out in theaters around the holiday season 2021, and because that was right after or in the middle of the Delta variant of COVID-19, it did not make a big amount of money at theaters. This movie made worldwide like $260 million, so you might look at the box office and say, oh, huge flop. But again, when it was released on Christmas Eve 2021 on Disney Plus, it became a very big success. It was one of those movies that was just very hard to avoid online. Now, that said, obviously we're getting close to the end here, but I do want to talk about covers. So, Scott, I want to put the spotlight on you as usual. What covers did you unearth, if any?
I'm going to have to cop out and say I was not, because of Sundance Prep, I did not have time to go spelunking. I'm sure some people have done some Brunoing, but I did not go searching this time. I was too immersed in other things.
That's okay.
I want a Tony Bennett cover. We don't talk about Bruno. Dylan. We don't talk about Bruno. I want that.
What you're saying. So what you're both saying is we don't talk about covers. Now, the one thing that at some point I ought to watch because it's on Disney Plus. There was a filmed special, including many of this film's cast members performing songs from the film Encanto at the Hollywood Bowl.
Whoa.
So it was filmed in November of 2022. It was put on Disney Plus in December of 2022. And again, like The Princess and the Frog, which we talked about in our last episode, this is a movie that is going to be getting a theme park attraction. There is going to be a big theme park ride at Disney's Animal Kingdom. It is scheduled to open in 2027 as part of a new section of that park. I would imagine that since the original voice actors are returning for the ride, we're going to hear some of these songs again. I can only imagine how musical that ride is going to be, but it should be very interesting, and I will also be very curious to see if we ever get any sequels to this one.
So I'm wondering if it's going to be like the bird that was following her through the Indiana Jones type thing, the Bruno's Temple. If the ride's going to be something like that.
Well, I forget. Now, Scott, keep me honest. Aren't they doing a new Indiana Jones ride in the same section?
Yes, it's going to be the Tropical Americas, and so what is now Dinosaur is going to be, which uses the a very similar ride system to the Indiana Jones attraction at Disneyland California, but it's going to be apparently a different. It's not going to just be a copycat of the Indiana Jones adventure at California.
Well, we'll see about that. I hope that's true, but I'm always doubtful. But anyway, I think though, unless either of you has anything else you wanted to add, I think that is it for Encanto. So,
all right.
Please don't make Encanto 2 Disney. Please don't do this.
Oh, well, you never know. They might. Again, like literally over the holiday break, my wife was talking to me about Disney. She said, "Well, Zootopia 2 is not doing too well, right?" I looked at her and I was like, "It's made $1 billion."
Isn't it the most successful Disney movie ever? Like most successful Disney animated movie ever made? Right now, isn't it?
It is.
Is it? Has it that far? Wow.
It did get to that point.
Now, to be clear, we are talking non-Pixar. Right, because I'm pretty sure Inside Out 2.
Disney animation.
Yes. Disney itself,
okay,
I mean.
I was going to say, but the point being, I'm sure they're going to make a third Zootopia, and maybe Scott, who did not love the first one, Google his name in Rotten Tomatoes and Zootopia. You like the second one more. Yes. Maybe you'll love the third one. Maybe it will be the Toy Story 3 of the Zootopia.
Well, I like Zootopia 1 well enough. I love Zootopia 2. I gave it 3.5 stars. I also, just to go back to something you said earlier about your kid watching Lightyear, I was the only critic who loved Lightyear. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's a hill I will die on.
Wow.
And I will die on this hill. My review is at RobGB.com, so it's free, so people can read it. And I'm the only person that liked this movie, and I'm perfectly fine living with that.
Here's what I will say, and I'm going to fall into the social media trap. where I tell you what my son said and you have to take my word for it because it's going to sound like wisdom beyond his years or something.
Okay.
As we walked out of the movie, it was just me and him. All he said to me was, "Why was that Andy's favorite movie?" Because if you recall, if you've seen Lightyear, if you're out there watching and listening, you've seen the movie. It begins with a title card saying, "This is Andy Davis's favorite movie," something like that. It's like the movie you're about to see is Andy Davis's favorite movie of all time. And that was all he asked me, and I was like, I have no idea why that's Andy's favorite movie.
I got an answer. Andy was bringing his toys to college. Andy had issues.
I was going to say, if your argument is Andy is unwell, I can't argue that point.
I don't. And one last thing, you mentioned like taking your kids to the movies, and I fell on a rabbit hole the other day because I would explain to people back in the 70s they had the Disney Summer Hit Parade where they would show a cartoon in a movie, and that's where I saw all of the classic Disney movies. I saw every single one of them in the theater, in addition to some of the not so classic Disney live action features that played with them. And it turned out my memory was fantastic. I remember going to the Lady and the Tramp and Mary Poppins. I remember watching Mary Poppins first and falling asleep at Lady and the Tramp, and I seen Lady and the Tramp when I was like 40. And I found the actual ads in the New York Times and the progression of each of the movies because every week was something different. My memory was perfect, exactly the double features that I saw. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is like, wow, that my memory was so good. I can't tell you what I had for breakfast this morning, but I can tell you that on August 22nd, 1975, my mother whipped my ass at Fantasia.
Formative experiences, you just can't shake them.
Right. You made your son stay for whatever the movie you mentioned earlier. My mother made me stay for Fantasia, and she said years later that she wanted to leave so bad because she hated the movie so much, but to teach me a lesson because I wanted to see Alice in Wonderland. But she said, let's come back and see Alice in Wonderland by itself. But I wanted to see the movie right then and there. So we bought a ticket, and Fantasia was first. And she made me sit there. Well, after she beat my ass. But she wanted to go home so bad. And I'm like, she tells me this story years later, and now I'm mad at her. I'm like, we could have both avoided Fantasia. Anyway.
Well, and by the way, before I let Scott wrap it up, the movie that I made my son sit through was Lightyear. That was the movie he wanted to see. And I had to make him watch it because I was like, I have to write about this movie. I have to watch all of it. I don't want to leave. So, yeah.
Well, you had an excuse. My mother didn't have an excuse, but just like I'm right, I'm going to be right because I told you we shouldn't watch this movie. Because my mother was doing it because she said so.
Sometimes that is enough, as we all learned from Encanto, if the matriarch or patriarch says we must to learn a lesson, that's all there is to it. So,
amen.
Scott, why don't you take us out?
So with that, it's time to turn down the volume on Mousterpiece Melodies. What's on the playlist for our next episode? From 1947, Fun and Fancy Free. And while you wait, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. Odie Henderson, thank you so much for joining us again. I know we mentioned your credits at the top of the show, but as a reminder, can you please let listeners know where they can find you and your work on the internet?
I am the chief film critic of the Boston Globe, so you can find my work at bostonglobe.com, and I'm also on Blue Sky under Odinator.
All right. And of course, we'd love for all of you to listen along with us. Tell us what you think. Do you love the songs of Encanto? Do you hate them? Do you think I need to get a Duolingo subscription? If you have any
talk about Bruno.
Yes. Do you have any comments, questions, opinions about Bruno or other members of the Madrigal family you'd like to share? You can always reach me at masterpiececinema@gmail.com. Follow me on Blue Sky at Masterpiece, where every day you can vote in my latest descent into pop culture insanity, 64-seed Walt Disney Animation Studios bracket, including Encanto. Now, Scott, you mentioned Sundance. This episode's going to be on the 12th, so it's not quite Sundance time yet, but I'm sure you're doing a lot of prep for it. Where can our listeners find you online?
I am doing a lot of prep, and sometime during that week, the last Sundance Film Festival in Utah, that'll likely be the last one I will be attending. You can find my work at cityweekly.net. You can also find me on Letterboxd at Scott Renshaw. You can find me on Blue Sky at Scott Renshaw. And also, I will be posting there occasionally links to my newly revived not Substack, but Patreon, where I'm going to be starting a 1976 project looking at movies from 50 years ago that I just began with Rocky, the almost too obvious place to start for a look at 1976. And I'm Scott Renshaw.
And I'm Josh Spiegel, and we'll see you all next time on Mousterpiece Melodies.